welcome to my cellar another time. A lot of times. Glad to see you. Okay, first off, I missed one from last week, and it might be a good idea I did because I've had a little more time to think it over. And that was somebody asked, how would I explain RPG to a newbie? Well, there is no easy answer, and no, I'm not trying to weasel. I don't know how old your newbie is. Is it a bunch of enthusiastic 8 or 9-year-olds that want to try something new and you're going to look at getting them into something like Mouse Guard? Because there the story is you go to that world and become a mouse in that world of mice and other animals. And you could explain it that way. Hi, we're going to go get into a story and write chapters. Yeah, are they 8 and 9-year-olds interested in just open-ended role-playing? Hi, we're all going to go write a story together. We're going to make up a story all together. And we're going to do it as we go along. And we're going to be the heroes of the story. Now, that's to an adolescent. Teens or older, you're going to have to kind of know who your audience is. Are they inquisitive, open to new things? Are they surly and just want to be left alone? Are they enthusiastic? Are they being forced into it? But basically, the main net or threads that hold it all together is the fact that we're mutually creating a story. And as certain things come up, all right, now I'm in the explanation part here. As certain things come up, you try to overcome the obstacles and achieve your goals. And you all do it together in a spirit of camaraderie and comradeship. And you're going to have a whole lot of fun doing it. And that's a good way. I really can't give you a clear answer on this because I don't know your target. I don't know who you're speaking to. I don't know which game, you're trying to get them interested in. If it's something like Duck Quest or Mouse Guard, where they're going to be playing animals, or Bunny and Burrows, or Harvester, or any of the anthropomorphic games, well, then you sell it on the oddballness, unique opportunity to be a bug, or a weasel, or whatever. It's a vexing question, and I don't believe there is one perfect answer because there's so many different age groups you could be seeing interest from. Oh, by the way, okay, now I know that I now know who Leroy Jenkins is and that he likes chicken. Okay. All right, next. I still wake up on Saturday mornings with anticipation. Used to be because of cartoons, and now it's because of Curmudgeon. Thanks for the videos. Congratulations on 250, and here's the 250 more. Oh, God, I hope not. That'd be another 5 years. Whew. I don't know if I could keep talking. Well, I don't know. Not going to jinx myself. Thank you for the sentiment. Yeah, another one. Every morning I wake up and put on a pot of coffee and sit down to watch this latest video in your Curmudgeon series. Truly thankful to have you as part of my weekend morning ritual. Hey, I'm glad to be there with you. Happy Saturday morning. Hope I can give you a chuckle or at least a My question today relates to the original XP system from the 74 game, in which the amount of XP awarded for monsters claimed is calculated by the that one I have. This is one of the ones that I never asked. Whose stupid idea was this? When I started getting involved in working in the actual workings of the game. You could judge, you could surmise from Gary's later comments that it wasn't him. Or, to be fair and honest, Gary could have just decided that he came up with a shitty system and decided to do a new one and been poking fun at himself, which he did a few times. I don't know. But yeah, the first one was a bunch of crap. Just crap. Divide this by that and the level and all that crap. No. I use a basic hit dice formula. How many hit dice of what size to determine their worth. And then variables like, were they old? Were they young? Were they beat up, coming off of even maybe perhaps a losing encounter earlier, and staggering on their last legs. Many things like that. But you're right. Yeah, the old one, the original one, was a bunch of crap. Way too complex. The principle behind it was that once you started getting a little hefty, a little formidable in level, you couldn't just sit around and, ring for send me 10 more orcs and kill them. And as you became higher in level, lowly creatures became worth less. And that was a balancing system, but it wasn't a very good one. I'll be first to agree. I never did use it. I switched to the original XP system, 100 XP per hit dice by PC level. And I think that's a good way to do it. It means I can be more parsimonious in dealing out treasure. It gets new characters through the first couple of levels a bit faster. And I haven't seen a downside yet. Good. As you know, any of you that watch me spout and prate here, if it's working for you, then there's no reason to change it. Ever. Until you one day you think, well, I think I'll do this differently and do this new way, and your players all go, hey, great idea, or they all go, ooh, this stinks, let's go back. And the next commenter said it scales very well as you level up. The only monsters worth slaying are higher levels. That's the other thing. It's not a flat. It isn't a flat progression rate. You need increasingly more and more and more to go up a level, and that was also factored into how they were going to try and have some semblance of reason in this leveling up stuff. Of course, nowadays you go play a video game or whatever and everybody's leveling up and it's no big deal, and we all know what it means. But it was a whole lot different back when these were levels. Congratulations, glad to keep watching. Hope to run into you at GaryCon. Well, I'll be there. Please don't hit me very hard if you're in a vehicle. But yes, I plan on being there. I tend to like settings that are low magic or somewhere between mid and low. Sure, high magic is cool and all, but to me it takes away the feeling of fantasy or magic being unpredictable in the wrong hands. And also I like a level of believability in any games, which shouldn't be mixed with reality. Now, for my question. Okay, well, I'm going to stop right there. Low magic. I consider low magic stuff that you have to get from a wizard. But, fire starters, personal vision devices that you can, keep in a sack, and glowstones, spells to keep, dishes that stay clean, mending clothes, things like that. Low magic. And anything else is something that needs to be considered strongly as you add it into your mix. When it comes to DMing, I become paralyzed from playing, even if it's fun. What are things that keeps you motivated to DM? Maybe this could help me if I'm missing out on something. The whole reason I DM nowadays is to have fun. Well, the primary reason, 85% of the reason is for me to have fun. Very selfish. The other 15 is promoting different ways to play. Not following the book slavishly, not following rules as written slavishly. The fun part is the type of game that I run. I'm pitting myself against 7 other minds to deceive and seduce them into playing badly, or so disguising what's going on that they don't have a clue. For me, the challenge that keeps me coming back is trying to fool those guys on the other end of the table. When, remember please, that I use the word guys in a non-gender specific way. Guys are guys. All the people that might be at my table, whatever gender they may have been assigned at birth. Hi guys. I used to address my classes in high school and middle school. Good morning, guys. Anyway, back to where, well, I don't remember where I am now. I find I have to do those little disclaimers every now and again, or I'll have people crawling in my armpits, screaming at me for being a sexist pig. Let's see, where was I? Low magic, high magic. Oh, paralyzed. I do it. I keep doing it because I have fun doing it. And I am the basest of human creatures. I seek pleasure first and foremost. And I get pleasure from having fun. I don't know what to recommend to find your mojo again, except go sit on the other side of the screen. Go play again a while. Find out what made you interested in it in the first place. Go play, and then see if that doesn't kickstart you on it. Maybe going and playing in a couple of campaigns or games or groups that you rightly or wrongly feel aren't doing it well or doing it right, though right's a tricky term, might get you back to go doing it on your own again, because subconsciously you know that you could do it better. I don't know. Maybe we sat down over a Coke or a beer or something and had a long discussion. We might be able to work that out. And I don't mean to dismiss your angst. I really don't know. You asked me what I do, why I do it, because it's fun. And I'm giving sermons on the Mount and having a ball doing it. Okay. There are a few instances in the Monster Manual where I can't help but question the decision on the stat build for a few monsters, most especially the Ramorhas, and its ability to do 10 to 100 points of damage if someone touches all places its backside. Was there any discussion as to why this critter would have such an odd ability to inflict an incredible amount of damage that makes even the breath attack of some adult dragons pale in comparison? Well, yeah. The Remorhas came about in Dragons Creature Features. And At the time, we thought it would be cool that this monster was cool because, it just kind of mopes along with its head down, and then when you rile it, it's hard. So 10 to 100, 10 10-siders. Now that's an average of 55 points. I don't see a problem with that. Let's look at, I just happen to have a handy reference book here and a place marker on the Ramorez. Moves 12. Hit dice, 8-siders, 6, 10, or 14, depending upon its side, I'm guessing. Armor class, tough on the outside. Don't usually find them in the lair, no. 1 at a time, that's all you need. You can bite you for 3 to 36, okay, 3d12. An average of, what's that make it, 6.5, 18, 19.5 points per bite. 7 dice of fire damage. Woo-wee. You know what, though? It doesn't say what kind of dice. There's a mistake. What size dice? Oh, no, there it is. 8-siders. Ouch. No, that's not it. It's not. It tells you how many dice, but not how big they are. Oh, okay. Here we go. Oh, there they are. The size. That many dice. But it still doesn't say. Oh, they're 8-siders. Wow. Yeah, that's tough. A big walloping monster that can just knock you silly. Almost swore there. Can knock you silly. We thought would be a good idea because at the time people were getting smug and cocky. And let's give them something bad. Really bad. Let them go try and kill this. If you can kill an old big one, a full-sized one, more power to you. But it's going to get you, every time it gets you, it's a buttload of hit points. Owie zowie. Why the backside? Probably just somebody thought it would be funny. Don't poke my fanny. They get really upset when you poke them in the fanny. Why not? Every monster doesn't have to be logical. Not everyone has to follow the same pattern. And occasionally stuff got done at TSR that was best described as quirky. Congrats on 250. Want to share a story? Okay, yeah, this is a neat story. I thought I'd share it with you. Home care for the elderly. I'd worked in facilities, but this would be a community going to people's homes. I went to a bloke's house and we bonded over a game. You talk about home brewing, etc. Now this was the game Trouble. I didn't give it much thought as it was a bit of a simple game. Well, it wasn't until he started pulling sneaky moves that left me unable to move. The guy had tactics. We're talking a simple game, and this bloke had strategy and tactics in it. It was a great visit, and I can't wait to go there again. It drives home many things you've spoken about regarding game design, and I wanted to share the story. Yeah, I'm glad to. That's great. Sneaky moves, all that stuff. We played a very simple 3M game, a board shelf game, in the shop, in the avionics shop, the Q shop as it was called Acquire, and it was a relatively simple build and merge type game, but believe me, in the hands of several people that played it a ton, There was a lot of different strategies and tactics to try and win that game. Or if you couldn't win, how to screw as many of the other players as you possibly could. Nothing wrong with that. And nothing wrong with being a kingmaker. If you can't win, decide who does. It was the right game for that. Okay, I can't imagine you haven't been asked this before, but I got a wild hair to ask. You mentioned in interviews that before that Gary was not really enthusiastic about magic users, yet the player character he's most famous for is Mordenkainen. Had he come around? No. And I probably haven't been real crystal clear on this. He didn't dislike magic users. He disliked the thought of magic users running amok and taking over the game. That's why magic users had so many handicaps in the beginning. 4 hit points, etc., because Gary thought, and this is probably a paraphrase of something he said, if they can make it to 4th level in this against these odds, then they deserve to be powerful. And remember, in original D&D, as far as how powerful is a wizard, there was nothing in any of the Tolkien books about Gandalf that said that he was anything more powerful. Now, what his race was or whatever, but he did nothing more powerful than a 5th level wizard in D&D could do. He didn't want magic users to take over the game. Had everybody been on the same hit dice, etc., for instance, everybody on D6s, as was originally tried, didn't work out. Magic users soon galloped to the forefront and ended up controlling a campaign. He didn't dislike them. He just did not want them to be able to take over the game unless they earned it the hard way. And believe me, it was the hard way. I'm looking at getting into D20 delving to play with the grandkids and went to their site. Appears to sell for $89 and seems awfully steep for a board game unless I'm missing something in the equation. Well, yeah, I gasp at contemporary game prices too. And I can only say I had nothing. I don't have anything to do with pricing. It's based solely on cost of producing. I've already been paid my I got an upfront fee to do what I did, so there's no more, and I do know the game's got a game board, a beautiful board. It's got beautiful color cards. It's got plastic figures. That's nice figures, not just little rubber army men type things. There's going to be more goodies in there than that I'm not at liberty to discuss yet. It's not out of line given today's contemporary prices. Couple 3 colored card decks, a colored board, gaming pieces, dice, the novelty and the work that went into doing this QR code system. I looked at it too the first time. I went, and then I looked at a couple of the others, and it's of a kind on a par with others. Go back and look again. Got to remember, all those artists get paid. Color printing's expensive. It's gotten worse and worse. Sometimes China's no longer an option, and even China's gotten much more expensive in the printing. That's all I can say. I totally agree with you on rewarding players with magical items on rare occasions only. My impression is that players with weaker stats, hopeless characters, seem to find magic items more often. I also have no problem finding ways to remove magic items from characters, though this is a taboo subject for most DMs, and ask, Why would you punish your players? Well, it's not punishing your players, it's redressing the campaign. Sometimes, especially when you're new, as I did when I was new, you inadvertently put something into the game that grotesquely overbalances it in the early stages. Makes somebody become invulnerable or makes some task impossible. Yeah, every once in a while, I know of groups that had, over the years, every now and again, had a magic purge. They went through the tail of a comet, and all of a sudden 30 or 40% of the magic stuff that they had didn't work anymore. And now the magic was toned down, and it wasn't running amok and overtaking the campaign. Oh, my Sachs comment made him laugh. As that great Australian documentary, Crocodile Dundee, proves, Australians inherently know knives. I also was given a sax engraved with runes by my mates to celebrate the birth of my first son. I'll be making them 2d4 from now on. Also, I played with the idea of giving certain backgrounds extra damage for their cultural weapons, somewhat like Apache had a rep as knife fighters. Super. So, I see no encumbrance or no reason not to. You use the Apache, I'll take the Iroquois. They fought with hatchets. And that's a different weapon than a knife. It's a different weapon than a spear. And they were quite good with them. There's no reason. I say this. If your player can come up and bullshit you a story on why his people or his father or whatever can make him a little... Let him have it. Why not? It shouldn't all be cookie cutter straight out of the book. Everything should be a little different. Don't you think? We don't need cookie cutters. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. All right. If you haven't mentioned it elsewhere, can you tell us about your Pachinko machine? How long you've had it, where you got it. I'd really like a close-up. Well, I'll have to work on that next week. I'll have to get a picture to Jim, and he can put it up in the back. I'll have to get a better picture. Like to see if it's about the same time as mine when they imported from parlors and sold them through Sears. Well, I can tell you mine didn't come from Sears. Mine came straight from Okinawa, from my father-in-law. I can't understand how they never caught on in the U.S. since they're excellent at convincing you there's a little bit of skill involved in the gambling you're doing because of the way you control the speed of the ball. In a way, it sort of mirrors what appealed to me in old school D&D as described in the anecdote you read in this video. It's not just a random die roll to win a mostly balanced fight, so you can say you won at D&D. It's applying the skill to find out the door is cold. Okay, you're right. And actually, there is almost as much skill playing Pachinko as there is playing pinball. And there's a great deal of skill being able to defeat a certain machine again and again and again, especially the older electromechanicals that were just keeping the ball in play and knocking down the targets, not going up ramps and spinners. And don't get me wrong, I've had fun playing some of the newer ones, but I'm more the nitty-gritty, sawdust on the floor, stale beer in the air, pinball machine over in the corner of the bar kind of guy. Like the one I have over here. A jumping jack. It's a 1974 Nishijin Super Deluxe. Now, you know about as much as I do. It was sent to us, sent to my wife and I, by my father-in-law in 80, maybe. I'd have to look at it. He was a Marine, and he served all over, and I know he did a stint in Okinawa at one time or another. So I imagine that's where it came from. Yeah, it is a shame it never caught on, but let's be honest. Pinball has more visual appeal. Pinball is more visually expansive, and therefore Pachinko fits a little more within the constraints of size. And I don't mean to sound, racist or anything here. I've been to Japan. I took Japanese history. Japan has always been a country obsessed with space. They don't have any. That's why they live cheek by jowl. That's why they learn how to live on the other side of a rice paper and thin wood partition and not hear what's going on in the room next door. I know I'm fooling around here. I messed up my papers here. Oh well. Pachinko is a lot of ding 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 ding, little ting 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 sounds in a very narrow space. I first saw a Pachinko parlor when I was over there in 69 or 70, and I was astonished because they were brightly lit, garishly lit, awash in the sound of the ching 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 of payouts and the tink 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 of the balls on the metal balls on the nails, and people would just sit there pulling the lever, shooting the balls. But then I got one of my own, and I figured out, in the right set of circumstances, I could understand why you could waste a whole lot of time doing that. Let's see. All right, now where did I screw up in here? Okay, I read that. Okay, we've been there. Okay, been there. All right, now where are we going? Okay. Now I shuffled these up somehow or other. Okay. Time makes wise. Time makes the wine. Do monsters tend to become more powerful with time? Biological immortality, as in creatures such as a Greenland shark, 250 to 500 years, rough eye. Well, I've always had young, old, decrepit, middle-aged. I've always taken age into account, particularly when constructing monster defenses. Yes, those creatures that live longer than other creatures do become wilier. Now, I'm not going to attribute intelligence, but they become wilier. They become harder to trap, harder to catch, because they've learned by experience. So they can become wiser. Again, depending upon the level of the intelligence and how many years have they lived. If a really old wolf manages to make it to 17 years, they'd be wary of most traps. They'd have seen a lot of them. They'd have a lot of savvy. A 2-year-old wolf would go for that big juicy looking piece of something in the trap or whatever. A dragon now lived 100 years. Well, it's going to certainly learn a few things, wouldn't it? Or maybe the dragons in your world sleep most of their lives. I don't know. So then maybe it lived 1,000 years. Now, when we're talking more ordinary monsters, flesh and blood, that we've just given extra powers to, or made bigger or whatever, then age would be a physical deterrent. Now that ancient dragon is still hard to kill because you're not chopping bits and pieces off. You're trying to deliver a fatal blow, and he gets harder and harder to kill because he knows more and more how to avoid that fatal blow. Whereas past a certain age, that wolf will say, if a really old wolf is 17, they probably are only holding on from the last 3 or 4 years of their life by wiles. They may not be the strongest one in the pack, but they're still the smartest one. Young? Yeah, young are stupid. All kinds of young are ignorant. I shouldn't say stupid. Young are ignorant. They don't know any better. They've not been taught. They're not going to do as much damage. They're going to be easier to kill. Yeah. Old and decrepit, slower, less reaction. Prime of life, that's your ideal. The ideal monster in the monster manual is the one that's in its prime of life. It might get just a little bit better, but probably not much. And it probably will never get much better. Most will not get much better, and so that's as good as it gets. Age affects us all. I used to, bowl with a heavier bowling ball. Just bought another bowling ball. Second time I bought one in my life. Haven't bowled in 20 years. Had shoulder surgery, ankle surgery, foot surgery. But I'm going to go back and bowl with Cheryl on Wednesdays, and something to do together and have fun. Is there ever a time when NPCs should take the main stage in a game? No. Next comment. Please wear the horned helmet. No. All right. All right. Now here's I'm going to read this. It's rather lengthy, but I'm going to read it anyway because it illustrates a point. And it illustrates several possible causes for this. In the last 5e game I played, I tried to bring an old school mentality to play, and this GM shot me down hard. We were searching a room. I said, I flip over the bed, I cut into the pillow and mattress if there is one, I pull all the drawers out of the shelves, inspect them for hidden compartments. GM said, make a perception roll. What's the roll for exactly? Is there something to be found by doing? If there was something to be found by doing that, I should have found it. A roll is superfluous at that point. I agree. And I'm not even sure what the hell perception is supposed to mean. Is this just a light bulb goes off and, oh, I perceive that. Crap. Perception check. What lame-ass designer came up with that word, perception check? Later, when we were stuck in a room, I had asked before we went in, are the hinges on the outside or inside of the room? Jim said they are on the inside. Later, when the door was jammed, I said, I'll take my tools and knock the pins out of the hinges and just take the doors off. Jim said I couldn't do that because there were now no hinges. He just didn't want me to bypass his trap and force us to walk along the outside of a high tower, which I didn't understand. He also had me roll to open a locked door, and even on 20, he said I couldn't unlock it. If that was the case, he could have just said that the lock is beyond your skill instead of wasting our time with a roll that would accomplish nothing. It was infuriating. Effectively, he was telling us There was no clever play to be had, no plans we could make, and no world we could interact with. I was tired of being told no to any and every plan and action I tried. This is also the same GM who made us roll a perception check to inspect the clothes of some NPCs, even though all we wanted to know is if they looked like soldiers or mercenaries. Another one of the players got really upset with this and told the GM he just wants to know if they look like uniforms. It should be pretty obvious, even to a casual glance. Okay, before the other responses come along, I'll make mine. Sound like this guy's really uptight. He's got something pinching his ass. He's railroading you. No doubt about it. He's railroading you. If he makes you go, won't allow you to do anything to go past this wonderful trap he's devised, he's a railroad. And railroad games, for the most part, suck. You know, you're not there, DM, to make the players pay. You're not there to make it as hard as possible for them to succeed. That's not why you're there. And I guess perception check. If you got to roll a perception check to tell if they're soldiers or mercenaries, I guess you got to roll a die to see if you're stupid that day. I can't tell the difference between, I can't tell a soldier's garb. Oh, let me see. Today, am I, oh, I'm smart. Ooh, I'm stupid. Perception checks sounds like a crutch for people that don't have any imagination or can't think. But hey, that's just my opinion. Here's a response. Sounds like a DM that needs the edges knocked off them by experience. It's good that you voiced your concerns, but it's a shame that you felt compelled to leave. I've heard of a post-game strategy called Stars and Wishes, where players feedback to DMs telling them what they like, stars, and what they'd like more of, wishes. It's a low confrontation way of critiquing the DM. If you ever find yourselves in a position you describe above again, you could talk to your group before starting and suggest this method of feedback. Or you could just have that as part of your games in future. It's nice to compliment the GM, and it provides a forum for discussion. Oh, somebody's got a bad, I should have corrected this. A forum for discussion. The direction of play. Oh, a discussion of the direction of play for future sessions. Yeah, there's a couple of things in here I get a little squeamish about. The stars and wishes. Yeah, okay, to a point. Yes, it is non-confrontational. Yes, it is a way to get a Harris poll on how you're doing, or Gallup poll for those of you who don't know Harris poll. But I shy away from anything that might mean that I don't like it would have a meaning or a method to just outright ban it from my game. Not at least until I did some soul searching to see if they had a reason. This person loves that stars and wishes idea. I'm going to incorporate it in my games. I love getting feedback from my players, and especially hearing what they want to see. Okay, you're right. It isn't a video game. I paraphrase here. However, well, again, it all depends on your group and the closeness of the group, whether they're game friends or outside of game friends also, and whatever. I wouldn't want to think that they could just present me with a menu. We want more ogres, more hobgoblins, and some pixies. It's not a menu. But the ideas have merit. And as a DM, you should not be cut off. You should not miss criticism, however gently or, well, it's the gentle ones you don't want to miss. The crude ones, they're harder to miss. Back to the conundrum of the tavern. PCs don't want to leave the tavern? Burn the tavern down. And you know what? It's a great idea. You know what? You could frame the PCs for it, so they got a vamoose out of town and can't come back to this town for a long time. I didn't come up with the idea first. Jolly Blackburn did. Knights at the dinner table. I imagine the knights are probably not welcome in more towns than they are welcome. That's one way to keep them moving. And if they get into brawls, well, hey, lanterns get kicked over. It happens. Burn it down. As for magic items, they are not given. They are earned through adventuring. I agree. Old school checks versus new school checks player. Okay. I want to search for traps. Old school DM. Roll a 1 on a d6. New school DM. Roll a d20 perception check. Vectored searches such as, I look at the floor to see if there are any seams or cracks that might look like a pressure plate or trap. Have always been there and have not left the game. You're right. You should. It's a lot more fun to look for stuff than sit around on your ass and wait for a dice to be rolled. Or a die to be rolled. Or multiple dice to be rolled. What a boring piece of crap that would be. Well, let's see, we'll go on here. I think perhaps the intelligence level of the player has been diluted over the years. Yes! And now that D&D is cool, more people are playing it, not just nerds and geniuses. A DM calling for perception checks as opposed to a player asking to search for traps is a way to keep the game from ending early, as less aware players won't be stumbling into the traps. Well, I say there's no experience, or there's no teacher like experience. Let them stumble into a couple of traps. And you know what? I'll bet they'll start looking around and asking you what's on the floor. Or wherever the trap was. I'm a little cold-blooded in that regard. And I certainly don't think that's a reason to validate perception checks. Interestingly, a first-level thief has a 10% chance to find a trap, while other characters have a 16.7%, a 1 in 6 chance, proving that a little knowledge can be a dangerous thing. Yes, it can. I'd never ask my players to make a roll if they can tell me what and how they do something. I don't like having a single roll of a die prove something or resolve something. If something is down to luck, a roll may be called for. But something like searching for traps, I'd ask the player, okay, how do you search? What are you looking for and where are you looking? Ta-da! Yes. Yes, yes. That's what good role-playing, good DMing, good player playing is. Interaction. Interaction. Don't just tell me you're doing something. Describe how you're doing something. And don't ask me to make a die roll. I mean, come on. A die roll completely ignores the player character's intelligence. Unless intelligence increases perception. See, I know so little about perception chips. I don't like the idea. I don't like the idea. And it's just more complicated shit. Okay, we're coming to the end here. We're at the end. What do you know? Been a long one. Those of you watching Saturday morning that live out in the Massachusetts area, look up TotalCon. They're there, and it's a great con. Great con. I went to it for several years. And, of course, my sponsors, the Independent Publishers Union, have a presence there. So if you're going, check them out. Let's see, what else? GaryCon coming up in a few weeks. Definitely going to go there. Going to be running a game. Haven't run for a few years, called Dirt Track Saturday Night. It's stock car racing on a dirt track, sliding and slamming and banging. Let's see, what else? Oh, I've been involved. I've taken on a new project. No gaming involved. I'm tutoring a great granddaughter. She had a problem during the COVID, during the pandemic, so she was a COVID left behind, and we got to get her caught back up, and so I'm working with her literacy skills, and yeah, that's all. Bought a bowling ball. Haven't done that ever and ever. Of course, I might still suck at bowling. I'll let you know. In the meantime, go to TotalCon if you can, out in Mass, or if the weather permits, or plan to see me and everybody else worthy of note at GaryCon. Do Dadagovi. Hello, and welcome to my cellar.
He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs. Still quite a feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Last man around when them rates went down. Calling Gary in that Lake Geneva town. Hey Gary, it's an awful mess. Let me edit, we'll have success. D&D and Dragon Magazine. He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Magic missile, it's a mortar shell. Make it hit in the first level spell. Brought psionics to the game to attack that wizard's brain. DSR and fantasy, collection of micro armory. Titan with tramp under a tree, high as could be. He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Curmudgeon.